Hi, welcome. In this video, I like to discuss the confusion within the dog training world as a, say, dog owner looking for advice, looking for help, looking for a process that you can count on, that you can depend on in terms of advocating the right way um, in relation to diminishment of unwanted behavior issues. Because ultimately, that's what matters, okay, for dog owners is actually investing in a system of training that's going to produce results. Now, here's the thing about, I talk about what's going on in the dog training world. Just understand, I put a lot of video content showing the real problem, very specific. I'm putting out very specific information regarding what both balanced and force-free dog trainers are selling by way of a inherently flawed process, which aligns with this assumption that response, the way that they're motivating dogs at the very beginning, represents a like-minded state, or that dogs are releasing control and that unwanted behavior issues are diminishing, which I show very clearly is problematic at best, okay, based on how these trainers are superficially painting the picture with dogs based on this idea that training is a learning-based exercise, okay, and say learning-based within using quadrants. You'll hear this word being used a lot by both balanced trainers and force-free trainers. But again, the thing to understand here is, again, understand the context of behavior itself. Represented that dogs have gained a level of control and it's manifesting, okay? It's starting to manifest, it has a spillover effect. And the way to look at this, I use this example often in my videos to help dog owners understand, because again, it'll make a lot of sense if you really consider this example. It's no different in terms of dogs as social animals, how the perceptions are influenced from a dog to the human based on this shared connection. And if you look at the example I use in terms of a parenting example, as a child becomes more and more selfish, okay, it begins to have an impact on behavior, begins to manifest, it begins to have a spillover effect in all sorts of situations. And so the important thing to consider is really about a process. And again, this system of training is different, okay, in a good way. Okay, it's based on interacting with dogs in a very specific way, okay, where dogs are going to be motivated, okay, so I use the context of a motivator differently, motivated to come into agreement with these interactions based on what they represent, okay, and changing the perception of the dog to human. So they're very intentional, because this is where in getting this issue about understanding what even influence represents, okay, in terms of people use discipline, they use words like discipline, physical force, but how is it applied? In fact, how is it applied in terms of relationship? How is it applied in terms of a process? Well, this system of training reconciles influence, how it intersects this process, okay, dogs coming into agreement with. So therefore, influence is part of the equation. Those who, again, understand, those who advocate training as a learning-based exercise are leading people into a false assumption that you don't have to engage the process a certain way, that you can just superficially motivate dogs using typically treats, using toys, using reward. And here's the depth of the problem. I'll put this out there so people really understand just how problematic this process, this very popular process really is that once a dog has already gained a level of control in the relationship with their owner, control itself, okay, through what's established relationally, will become its own motivating agent to get dogs to respond, right? Which will again lead people into assuming that just at a response level that, oh, things are looking pretty good. The dog's doing the sit down, come and stay, kind of typical, obedience narrative. But again, the question is, well, what does that really mean? Okay, just at a response level. And this is where, again, the confusion is you hear, and this, well, all these trainers do this, they will interplay these words between response and behavior. You'll hear them suddenly, the word behavior suddenly appears out of nowhere as the dog's responding to suggest or allude to the picture is behavior, or that things are getting better. Well, the question is based on what? Okay, well, based on nothing, based on just putting that word out there. And because again, I understand everything is focused on an appearance way, just at a response level. And it's no different, again, going to my parenting example, of a child, if you're going to motivate, and here's the thing you have to keep in your hip pocket, an already selfish child. So it's understanding where you're currently at when you step into a process that makes all the difference in the world when you begin to build a picture that way. So when you're dealing with an already selfish child and you just, in a very superficial way, generate a series of responses in an attempt to package it up and sell it as is, well, you just consider how problematic that can be that way if you're not getting the parent to invest in the relationship properly, align with the right parenting style, interact with, okay, and then key up on that word, interact with the child in very specific ways, and this is what this system of training is about, interacting with, okay, to change the perceptions, okay, of dog from dog to human. So understand that what's being sold out there in the dog training world, this is why there's so much confusion. I get into that. I go through a whole bunch of video content. I'm putting lots of information out. I'm going to continue to talk through this for people to help people understand what's going on, because it's absolutely critical. If you really care about your dog, this is critical information. This is the information that you're not going to hear. You go and search it out. You're not going to hear any other trainer talking the way I'm talking for a reason, because all the trainers are doing it, okay? All the trainers are selling it that way. And so understand that when the chips are down and the picture's not lining up and you're like, what's going on here? You know, I spent time, I spent money, and I'm still experiencing these behavioral problems at a certain level. That's because the dog is still holding a level of control in the relationship, because the process that is being advocated is an open door for dogs to hold a level of control, even as they're going through the motions, and trainers are assuming, okay, because I understand the core tenet of learning, okay, the way that it is applied is based entirely on an assumption, okay, just on an assumption, nothing to qualify it or establish it, okay. They're just, and then here's the thing, I'll put this out there, that the trainers doing this, and this is how mainstream dog training set up, is trainers are counting on, they're depending on people to blame the dog. When things don't line up, they're counting on it. Okay, this is how dysfunctional it is. So I just want to put out there, I would encourage, if you're watching this and you're a dog owner, understand that dog trainers don't want to talk about this, okay? Because they're all doing what I just described. And so there's nothing in it for them. They're selling it. It's a drive-through mentality, just like move on to the next dog. If you can't get devices off your dog, big deal. And you'll hear all this rhetoric. You'll hear this, these excuses. You hear this same sales pitch, because that's how they're selling it. So again, I encourage you to check out my website. I have a page on my website that talks through this to help people make sense of the confusion. But again, looking at the system of training, it makes sense. Okay, it advocates properly. Dogs are holding an incredible amount of control, offers hope for all dogs. So my encouragement would be, regardless of what you've already been through with other systems, other methodologies, this system of training works, okay? Because it follows the right path. It reconciles everything. It answers all the questions. And, it goes beyond appearances to make sure that the relationship change is going to happen between you and your dog. Thanks for watching.